so equations. First thing we need to talk about is the word inverse operations. Inverse operations. All right, inverse operations. Okay, this basically means opposite operations because inverse, this means opposite. Okay, so you can think opposite operations. The way we solve equations is we solve them with the inverse operation. All right, so we're using the opposite operations of things. So we're going to look at opposite operations. All right, so the first one is addition. We know addition is a plus sign. All right, the opposite to addition is subtraction. The opposite to subtraction is obviously addition. So if I was solving a one-step equation and it was addition, to solve that addition, I would use subtraction and vice versa here. All right. The opposite to multiplication is division. And the opposite to division is obviously multiplication. So we need to make sure we understand our opposites and what are opposites of each other. Okay, so addition, subtraction, subtraction, addition, multiplication, division, division, multiplication. These are all opposites. Okay, and these are how we solve equations. So to solve equations, we use inverse operations, which is the opposite. Okay, and you use the opposite of these. So we're going to go ahead and dive in here and start on some examples. So the first thing we're going to look at is one-step equations. Let's say I have x plus 5 equals 8. So with equations, all right, our goal is to get the variable alone. All right, that's our goal. At the end of the day, we want x by itself over here. Okay, you see this x, this variable here, he's a loner. He don't like friends. He wants to get rid of everybody on that side. So one thing that I tell a lot of my students to do is that the equal sign is to draw you a dotted line. Okay, that means if we go from this side to this side, we have to do the opposite to move from one side to the other. You have to do the opposite. Okay, so to get x by itself here, what we're going to do is step 1, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Why are we subtracting 5? Subtraction is the opposite of addition. We want to get rid of this 5. So to get rid of it from one side, we move it to the other. Okay, to move it to the other side, you have to do the inverse operation. You have to do the opposite. Okay, so what we do to one side, we do to the other. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So they cancel over here. All right, we're going to bring down what's left. All I got left over here is x. So bring him down. X, those cancel because that would be 0, equals, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So our answer would be x equals 3. Okay, so that's it for that problem. So you're looking at these. We're going to see how do we get this positive 5 to this side and get x by itself. We have to do the opposite. Anytime you cross the equal sign, you can move anything from this side to this side or this side to that side. But if you cross that equal sign, you have to do the opposite. All right. Let's look at another one. Y minus 12 equals negative 3. So again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw my dotted line. All right, this separates my sides. Now you don't have to, but for some of you that might be a good visual for you to see that you have two sides here. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I want to get y by itself. That's my variable. So how do I get that by itself? I got to get rid of this negative 12. Yes, it's minus 12, but a subtraction sign and a negative are the same thing. You determine the opposite of a number by what's in front of it. This negative is associated with that 12. It's not, that negative does not go to that y. Okay, so to get rid of this negative 12, I need to add 12 to both sides, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if I add 12 on this side, those cancel. What I do to one side, I do to the other. All that's left over here is y. So I'm going to bring down my y equals negative 3 plus 12 gives me positive 9. Okay. So again, all I did was I did the opposite. I added 12 to both sides, brought down what was left. Okay. That's y equals 9. Now here's an analogy I always use to help my students with equations. Okay. Everybody knows about the Civil War, right? It was North versus South. So let's say that I'm in the South and I got these South clothes on, my uniform, and I cross the border to the North. What if I cross the border to the North and I don't change my clothes? I still got South clothes on, but I'm on the North side. What happens? They're probably going to kill me, right? Because I'm a Southerner, all right? But if I cross that border and I change my clothes, they're going to think I'm part of the North, so I'm safe. So when you cross the border here, make sure you change your clothes. Do the opposite. Okay? Do the opposite or your equation is going to be all wrong. All right? Let's look at another one. And we're going to do one of each. Let's say I have negative 5x equals 35. So here we're going to determine what we got. And what I got right now is I have negative 5 times x equals 35. So I have to do the opposite to get x by itself. The opposite of multiplication is division. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. And why am I dividing? Because division is the opposite of multiplication. So if we divide this side by negative 5, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. These negative 5s will cancel because division is the opposite of multiplication. X is all that's left on here, so I'm going to bring down my x equals 35 divided by negative 5 is negative 7. All right. And we'll squeeze one more in down here. We'll squeeze in a division problem for you. That way we have at least one of each. Let's say y divided by 2 equals 12. Draw my little line here to separate. Now, we have division. Okay, so the opposite of division, I got to cross this line, so I got to do the opposite. The opposite of division is multiplication. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. This is division, the opposite. I'm going to multiply by 2. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. These 2's will cancel. That leaves me with just y here. And 12 times 2 is 24. And that's my final answer there. Okay. Has anybody got any questions on one-step equations? I feel pretty good about it. All right, we're going to move on to two-step. I'm going to turn my page here. Now, two-step equations can be confusing because it kind of goes against everything you've been taught as far as order of operations. Okay, order of operations, we do parentheses, exponents, you do multiplication, division, then addition and subtraction. But with two-step equations, we're going to get rid of addition and subtraction first. Okay, so our steps here for two-step equation. So step one, we're going to do the opposite of addition and subtraction first. And then the step two is do the opposite of multiplication and division. So the first step is to get rid of that addition and subtraction. And then the second step is to get rid of our multiplication and division. Okay? And this will make sense once we start working some of these. Let's look at our first example here. Let's say I have 3x plus 7 equals, let's see, 34. 3x plus 7 equals 34. So I'm going to draw my line, a little dotted line here to separate my sides, because again, that helps some of you all. So if I go look at my steps, I'm going to get rid of my addition and subtraction first. So looking at this problem, where's my addition and subtraction? It's right here with the 7. So step one, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. All right, so if I subtract 7 from this side, I got to subtract 7 from this side. Now, I don't subtract the 7 from the 3x. They're not like terms. I cannot take 7 from 3x. They're different. All right, so when I subtract these right here cancel. Bring down what's left. All that's left over here is 3x equals, and 34 minus 7 is going to give me 27. Now what do I have? Now all I have is a one-step equation. So I've gotten rid of my first step here. Now I have a one step just like we did previously. Okay, so then step two here is going to be divide both sides by 3. And why are we using division? Because this is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So divide by 3, those cancel. What you do to one side, you do to the other. All that's left here is x equals 27 divided by 3 is 9. So that's a two-step. So that's why two steps can be confusing, because we're so used to doing multiplication and division first, but in this instance, we're looking at our addition and subtraction first here. Okay. All right, we'll look at one more example. And the one thing with equations, I know you hear this over and over and over, but seriously, with equations, practice, 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 because once you understand the steps, they get really, really easy. So what I really stress is to make sure you understand equations. Equations is the one thing that you will have in every single math class until you graduate, until you're finished with your education. You will have equations in every math class. So if you don't understand equations, you are really, really, really going to struggle. Okay? So make sure that you understand how equations function, how they work. Let's say I have y over 4 minus 6 equals 5. Okay? So I have a two-step. I'm going to draw my little line here to separate my sides. And we're looking for our addition and subtraction. So do I have addition and subtraction? Yes, right here. So the first step, step 1, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Okay, so the opposite of minus 6 is plus 6. So what I do to one side, I have to the other. I can't add 6 to this because this is division. These aren't the same. All right, so once I do that, those will cancel. All I have left now is y over 4 equals 5 plus 6 is 11. So my next step is division. The opposite of division is multiplication. We're going to multiply both sides by 4. So I'm going to multiply this 4. Those will cancel. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. All that's left over here is y equals, and then 11 times 4 is 44. All right. So